again, shall we? So back again for another evening show. Join me for an hour or so while we talk through the transfers of an evening time. I am here on holiday in Menorca, so right now I'm by a pool, which is amazing. There's a nice cool breeze. What time is it here? It is 11:49 on the 19th of August, Tuesday. My holiday is coming to an end, as is the transfer window. Hope we're all doing really well this evening. Please feel free to get into the chat. Let me know how you're doing this evening. So I try and do one of these every night when the family are in bed and they're asleep. This is my time to relax with the community that I think is amazing. The only thing that I ask for really is if you're going to get into the chat, don't mind the banter at all. Just remember, if you're going to come in here and you're going to give it the banter, then the community is going to come back at you. I'm not a dictator of the chat. I don't do things for clickbait. I will always try to give the benefit of the doubt. I'm led by the chat. I'll just come on, give you the news. We can talk about it. The evening show is one that's pretty much led by you guys. It's quite chill. We can kind of talk about all different stuff. We do get infiltrated by other fans from other clubs, which is most of the time they're fantastic. It's something that I really enjoy talking to you guys. So I'm by pool, fortunately to be on away at present as well. I'm in Spain, so feel free to get into the chat. Join me for the next hour or so. We try to tend to do this for an hour and a bit, just to talk through the stuff. You get stuff off of your chest. I know it can be quite frustrating, particularly football, and I think sometimes we'll get a little bit angry, and I don't think that we need to. So please feel free to get into the chat. So I think today's been one of those days. We've been talking about Agoume today. So one of the things I'm going to say about this chat, and I'm going to give it up to the chat. This is not one that I would have thought about really in terms of what we needed to do and what to go. So Agoume has been in this chat for a very long time. It's one of the ones that the chat have been asking for, saying I think we should go for this player. As it transpires, today is the day whereby United are looking like now they're putting the feelers out. But I think what is quite clear, there are a couple of things, and please get into the chat on this one. Let me know about if you think we're going to get a midfielder, if you think that Agoume is the right one. Do you think Belieber can still happen? I don't think it's going to happen anymore. I think Belieber's done. I think we have to move on from that. I have to move on. I was in that camp, and now I have to move on from that deal. So Agoume for me, I think makes sense, and I'll give you my opinion. What I do here is I'll give you my opinion. People don't tend to like that sometimes. I give my opinion, doesn't mean I'm right. You guys come on here and you need to have your opinion as well, and as long as we are respectful, I don't mind reading out chats, and I don't mind talking through the stuff. And I'll give you the Magician says City, the best team in the land and in all the world. The Magician, as I say, my friend, banter is absolutely fine. White man number 10, awesome. I'm not going to read it out, but that's funny. Banter's absolutely cool. Just try and keep it to a level, because otherwise, I get a strike, and I'll just ban you. So it's all cool, man. I'm absolutely good. The cream is all good, my friend. It's worked a treat. So fantastic, my friend. City are the best team in the land and all the world. Just kidding. No, it's cool. I love the banter, my friend. I'm more than happily to engage in the banter, buddy. It's funny. Look, right. I'm on holiday. I'm sat by a pool. Who's going to be angry, right? Who can be angry, my friend? It's brilliant. Daniel Richards, hi. What is the news? So I'll give you a brief overview of the news. City are the best team in the world. Apparently that's the news. They're not at the moment, but they could be again. So where are we right now? So I'll go briefly. Feel free to interject. Let me know, what you guys think. So today, Agoume is the latest centre midfielder that's been mentioned, 23 years old. Basically, Seville, kind of that defensive midfielder engine room that we need. Now, lots of people in this chat have been mentioning him, 6'2", 23 years old. And apparently, there's been a 20 million bid gone in for him from Turkey. I mean, I think he's going to go. I think his release clause is 35 million euros. And potentially, 30 million pounds, 26 million pounds. I think we can get that deal done. And this is somebody that the chat has mentioned lots and lots of times. I'll give it up to the chat on here. If you do come into this chat, I'm gonna say this to you now. This chat and this community is amazing, and people just say that, right? Oh yeah, this chat is great, blah 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 blah. But this chat is fantastic. We always talk things from a logical perspective. We always talk about stuff. And Agoume, this is one for the chat. This is one that they've come in and they've said. So Agoume's been linked today. Now, where I think this makes sense for me on a couple of points, and I'll always give you my opinion, doesn't mean I'm right, is that logically it makes sense for the age of the player. Ineos do love a young player. 30 million euros, whether we'd be allowed to do this over 2 installments, I don't know. Whether we'd have to give it up front, I'm not sure. 23 years old, 6'2". Ineos will be all over this deal. This is an Ineos prime deal for them to do, and I think it makes sense as well. I think one of the things that I will say about this signing that I would like is I think it's a Brighton sort of signing. I think it's a Brentford signing that they would do. Who would have thought? And one of the things that the chat has said to me, a couple of points in the chat, is that he's not Premier League proven. I get that, but if you want Premier League proven, like a Walton, and I'll tell you why these players are so expensive as well. So you've got like a Declan Rice, you've got a Walton, you've got a Belieber, you've got a Casido, and somebody said to me, why is Eze 55 million so cheap? Like, why didn't we go for the deal, or why is he so cheap? Now, if you think about it, right, everybody, including myself at some point, wanted to be a striker. They want to be a winger, and they want to be a striker, and they want to be the one to score the goals. They want to be the ones who are, the sort of stars of the show. So for every Zaha, there is an Eze. For every Ronaldo, there is a Gareth Bale. There's always going to be the next big thing, because a striker and a winger, there's so many people that want to be them that there's a massive pool. So there's always the next one, right? Centre midfielders, there's not. Who as a child says, I want to be a centre midfielder? Like, who says, as a child, I want to basically defend the back four and basically pass out from the back, and that's what I want to do. Nobody says that, right? So defensive midfielders and centre midfielders that are an engine room, they almost fall into that, right? So because there's not as many of those, the supply and then the demand for those players are really, really quite high. So if you want a Premier League proven centre midfielder, like a Walton, like a Belieber, like a Rice, like a Casido, they're going to be 100 million, because there's not many of those out there. Now, Agoume, for me, falls into that category, because if you think about the Spanish game and you think about sort of what they're at, we people call the Spanish league all sorts of stuff, right? But they're very defensive. They're very, they've got the centre midfielders. To them, they can let those sort of players go for that sort of money. So this, for me, is a deal that we should definitely do. Let's have a little look. We're saying hi, Nick. Yeah, nice try, my friend. Yeah, Sanzu, that's an old one, mate. You basically, what you need to do with that, Sanju, is basically go to Peloton. So the bike people that just read out loads of crap and are thick. That's where you sort of need to go, my friend. So you basically have got yourself banned. So yeah, that's yeah. Honestly, I just don't know why. I don't mind the banter, but when you're trying to catch people out like that, mate, I'm 42 years old, right? I don't mind the banter, but you need to wake up early in the day to catch me out and things like that, mate. So yeah, whatever. Smash the holiday loft, brother. Yeah, mate. It's just this is the first one of the year and the only holiday of the year, so I've got to enjoy it with the family. S3 Dub says United spent over 400 million in the last few seasons, just still be fighting for Europa League spot. Heritage, I guess. S3 Dubs, as a comment, mate, I can't disagree with you. I don't know who you support, but all I can say is that we spent our money badly. We really have. I mean, the one thing that I will say, and this is not a dig at, so for example, right, Liverpool didn't spend any money last season, and they spent money this season because of their success. There's no taking away from. I'm never going to go to another club and say, look, you spent your money. You've earned your money. Like at Liverpool, they're going to talk about net spend, which I get that, okay, and that is true. There's no denying things like that. But the spending for United, I mean, it's been abjectly terrible. That's a fact. But what I will say for us is that at least it's our money. So for example, City, for example, and this is not a dig at them, but these are facts. They financially doped themselves for 10, 12 years. They were League Two, suddenly come into like all this money, and people can aim what they like at us and say we spent 100 million, blah 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 blah. But it's our own money, and as it comes, whether people like it or not, S3 Dubs. And again, this is not a dig, mate. We are the biggest club in England, and it's not just me saying it for clicks or for likes. people hated, adored, but never ignored. Sums this club up right. Is that we're the biggest draw in town. Like Liverpool spent nearly like £500 million. No one's talking about Liverpool. No one's talking about Man City. No one's talking about Arsenal. Everybody, the focus is on us. The amount of money that we spend on players. The amount of money that I've seen that we spend on players is always inflated. Like Højlund, apparently we spent 72 million quid on him. Spent 64 million on him. Like, we are the biggest club in England, and people can't handle that. And that's that's not our fault. Banter, that's fine. Yeah, you're giving me facts. You spent 400 million pound on players. We finished 15th last season. We were terrible. You're never going to get a defence of that from me. I demand first place every season, but I'm not stupid, mate. I've been watching football for 38 years. I'm not stupid enough to not recognise other teams and recognise their success, because we had it for many, many years. But we've got to strive to those standards. And you're right, we've spent so much money, but as a like a heritage club, we're not heritage. We're present. We're current. We might be terrible, but name a club who's bigger than us. Name a club who gets talked about more than us, and there isn't one. And whether that hurts you or hurts other people, that's something that we can't help. That's just life, I'm afraid. We are the biggest club in England, and that's just how it is, my friend. Well, you was the biggest club for a long, long time. S3 Dubs, again, I don't mind talking about this stuff. There needs to be a difference between successful and biggest club. So Liverpool, you can argue right now, are probably the biggest relevant club, have done really, really well. I'd argue reputation-wise, clubs like Leicester hold more weight and there's still more fear in the top European clubs. So S3 Dubs, let's go back to your comment there, right? Okay. Again, these are the comments I love, because it means that we can take this out, and it's really interesting what other fans think of our club, right? So you're going to say, argue reputation-wise, Leicester City hold more weight and there's still more fear in the top European clubs. We all know that that's not true, is it? Like, if that's your opinion, fine. But we all know Leicester, Championship Leicester, who haven't been in the Champions League since what, 2017, 18 season. We all know that's not true. United, whatever competition they're in, they are the biggest draw, pretty much. UEFA won us in the Champions League. UEFA Conference League, they won us in that. Whatever cup we're in, we are the biggest draw. You look at pre-season, right? The attendances of most of the grounds were some of the biggest that they've ever had. So reputationally, I think you're talking at your back end, and that's not. I get it if you're not a fan of a particular club, but reputation-wise, as you use the word reputationally, well, that's not true, is it? United are pretty much the biggest draw in town. Still, you can argue that do we instill fear in clubs now? Probably not right now. But in terms of reputation, we're still one of the biggest clubs in the entire world. Whether that's your opinion or not, that's you. We can talk about that, but sadly, I think you're totally wrong on that one. I could do a lot worse than Diego Costa and Agume. Yeah, that's a valid. Yeah, I'd say it gets talked about more outside of United when ultimately something the club really felt the impact on. Yeah, what's really interests me on this, and it really does, what other fans think of United. Is it the club? Is it the fans? It's a really interesting topic of conversation, and this is what this is for tonight, is basically to get your views and opinions on transfers, and we can talk about different stuff. But it really is, recent times, I would agree with you, nobody's scared of us. We finished 15th last season. Like, who's going to be scared of us? I wouldn't be scared of us. And those are facts, but we're still fortunate as a club, and this is what I will always say, we're still fortunate as a club that we've still got the name to draw players. That we are very, very fortunate in terms of that. We are very, very lucky that we still got our name. So I would agree with that, my friend. Gregory Burke, there are only 6 big clubs. United are one of them. Real Madrid, Barcelona, City, Liverpool, Bayern, PSG. Yeah, I think those are the traditional big clubs. I think obviously over time you do see sort of more City shirts, which pains me to this day, but of course that's fine. But I agree with you on that one. You do have the big 6. You've got Madrid, Barcelona, United, Liverpool, Bayern, PSG. Yeah, you could argue a few more clubs, but yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Separate, big, popular from successful. Agree with you. I can't disagree with you from that one. Bonjour from France. What was United's last major competition win? Probably the FA Cup, was it? But again, sorry, my English isn't amazing. My club is also. SB Dubs, do not apologise, my friend. Do not apologise. Nothing to apologise for, my friend. Walsall, again, great club. I love the smaller clubs. I think fans are brilliant from smaller clubs. They know what it is to support proper clubs. Great chat, mate. SB Dubs, this is what we do here, mate. Is that we talk about stuff, pretty much through the day. Obviously, we talk about this club, right? But in time, we come on and we just have a chat about stuff, and who knows, where the chat leads. Who do you think is going to win the Premier League this season, Wayne? Who do I think is going to win the Premier League? I think Liverpool should demand to win the Premier League. I think City have been the most impressive so far. Liverpool going to be there or thereabouts. You can't deny City. Liverpool, I don't think. I'm going to say this now. I don't think Arsenal are anywhere near right now. I think Liverpool and City squads are untouchable. I think their squads are phenomenal. I think City are going to win the league this year. I think Liverpool, it could be another like 90 points plus league. It could be like a 97 first place, 95 second place. I think Liverpool and City have both strengthened their teams beyond a joke, and I think that I'd go City this year. I just think they look impressive, and I think people sleep on Hojlund a bit. I think the business that they've done is fantastic. At Arsenal, I don't think it anywhere near. Chelsea are going to be nowhere near. So I think it's going to be a two-horse race. Arsenal probably will go third, and then any one of, you can't discount Spurs this season. If you're in the chat, don't forget to give us a like, favourite and subscribe if that's what you want to do. It really does help us out. Spurs, Spurs are going to sign some great players as well. So I think the top two are locked down. I think any one of Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, Spurs, United, I'm going to put them in there as well, can go for those between third and sort of eighth. I think it's going to be really close this season. But you obviously never discount Arsenal. Of course, you can never discount Arsenal. Arteta knows what he's doing. He's been there before. They've got the striker in now, so let's see what they can do. So United, Agoume today. Let's get back on that. So Agoume, basically the chat around that is Agoume, 30 million, 26 million pounds to United. I think will be a great deal. 23 years old. Brilliant sign. I think that will be fantastic. Now, goalkeeper wise, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So, Gregory back. Welcome to chat, mate. As soon as their Middle East owners become bored, City will withdraw back to consistent mid-table club. Once sold, City won't sniff an EPL championship for 20 years. Do you know what? It happens. It does happen to the best of clubs, doesn't it? At some point something will change, and City won't win the league anymore. Who would have thought that United, or if you go back over history, right? If you look at the likes of an Everton, Everton used to win the league. If you look at the back of Liverpool to a degree, I mean, they didn't win the league for the best part of 30 odd years. Arsenal used to win the league all the time. Aston Villa, Forest, who would have thought that those would have not won the league? Arsenal have not won the league for, what are we talking, coming up for 20 odd years? Like, who would have thought that? Like, United haven't won the league since 2013. Like who would have thought that? So every team has an era, and City won't last. It just won't last. Something will come into play, and it's just not going to last. And that's why you should appreciate the eras as they are now. So if I was a City fan and you get stick, I know what it's like being a fan of this club. You get stick, enjoy it when you're winning stuff, because it is not going to last. Mark O glazes out, loving the name. Dallo has regressed. Bruno is wasted at CM. Marco, I think you make some good points here, my friend. I think you make some fantastic points. I agree with you. He has regressed. I cannot disagree with that. I don't like him. I thought under Mourinho, he's that sort of player. He's a defensive right back. He's a right back. He's not a wing back. I don't like him in terms of that. I think he has gone backwards. He's one of the players that I think will go next season. I think Amarin has to deal with him this season. He will go. Bruno is wasted at CM. He's not a CM, is he? He's a number 10. But I think what we need to realise with Fernandes is that he's pushing 31. Are we going to win a Premier League with him? Probably not. I like him. I've always thought Bruno's a bit of a stat padder. I think Bruno for me is like Marmite right now, and I don't mean like hate. I just mean is that you either like him or you don't. And I think if you look at his heat map from Arsenal, he's here, there, and everywhere. Bruno cannot. He's so ill-disciplined. He cannot stay in one position. Steve Moore says, "What do you mean City won't last? I'm a Chelsea boy. You need to look at your team." What I mean by that, if you listen to what I'm saying, is that eras don't last, right? If City continue as they are, and the oil money keeps on being there, of course they're going to last. But what I'm saying to you is that eras don't last. Eras do not last. City won't always win the league 4 or 5 times on the trot. They just won't. They just won't do it. There will be something else will happen. Like the Saudi, maybe this is a different era. Maybe this is a new era. So for example, you look at your club, you were winning the league like every other year, but Abramovich got kicked out. That's an era, right? That's an era gone. These eras don't last. Do you really think the Premier League wants City to keep winning this league? Look, there's 115 things against them. Their era could be done and dusted. So I don't mean in terms of like they're not going to last in basically like the short term. But what's happened to your club. It can basically like happen to them as well. Now your club again. I do look at my team. And my team have been awful, mate. I genuinely, I'm not one of these people that's saying, every other team in the land is awful. City have been a phenomenal team. Now, whether or not the charges against them are true or not, that's up to the Premier League. Chelsea again, I think you're talking about our club. I think you need to look at your team. You've spent £2 billion on players, and you've won a Club World Cup. I think people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Have you won a Premier League? No. Have you won a Champions League? No. You won a UEFA Conference League and won a Club World Cup. So I sort of think, really, you sort of need to go back in your shell a bit and kind of, you spent all this money on all these different players. You're buying all these players. You want to buy one of our players who basically we've kicked out. We've basically kicked him out, and you want to buy him. So I sort of think what I'm explaining, that City will last if the money's still there, but the moment they get bored, eras don't last. That's a fact. So Chelsea boys, you sort of need to go back in your shell a bit, because you spent nearly £2 billion. You've had to sell hotels and you've had to sell that. And what have you got to show for it? You haven't been particularly good this season. You spent a lot of money. You want to buy a reject from us. So I'm looking at my team, my friend. I think you do need to go back and look at your team and maybe question yourself on that one. Are we getting a CM and a goalkeeper in before the window closes? I think we're going to try to. There are two sides to this, right? So Laurie Whitwell from the Athletic on X, he's basically saying that we're not going to go for a goalkeeper. We're not going to go for a centre midfielder. We're basically going to go for what we've got. I don't believe that. I think that is nonsense. I think Agoume, a Wharton, I think those two are kind of the ones that we're looking at. Wharton's going to be expensive, so I think it's either going to be Lemens or Costa. Now Costa is subject to a €20 million bid from a Turkish club. 30 million from us, I think would be a deal. So I think we are looking at a keeper. Nana, I don't think is going to start on the weekend again. So let's see where we are on that. So Gregory Burke, only 5 midfielders are, I know 2 years from now, Man Utd and Agate will still. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think we need to get more signings. Man Utd though, you've got to look at Man Utd. I don't think, and we spoke about that today. I think that Man Utd is one of the ones Amarin doesn't like. I like Man Utd. I think the fan base likes him. There's a contract on the table for him, but Amarin doesn't like him. I don't understand why he doesn't get a game. Is it because he doesn't think he's up to it just yet? I think Man Utd is still a young player. Ugarte for me is abjectly terrible. When you watch football for a long time, there are players that you watch or see that you just know I'm not going to cut the mustard. Ugarte for me is one of those players. Now, I'm happy to be proved wrong on that. Come back in the chat, future date, say, look, you were wrong on that one. I've seen enough players in my time. You think about it. Of all the players that people buy, apparently there's only like a 60% hit rate on players. So for every 10 players that we sign, 4 of them are not going to be great. So for me already, Hojlund is not great, right? Ugarte for me is not going to be good. The fact that Casemiro for me is still getting into this team, it tells you everything that you need to know. Or is Amarin playing a game? I think it tells you everything that you need to know. Amira Cole says, we will beast most teams this season. We're a different machine. If we sign a goalkeeper and Belieber, we'll challenge for the league end and evolve under Amarin. We will only get better. Amaya, I like what I like is I like confidence in the chat as well. You know, I'm quite a realist and a pessimistic person, so I always look at things from I try to from a logical perspective. What I also like is people just go, no, we're going to win the league, and we're going to. I think we need that as well as a fan base, because it gives me hope and it gives people like me, you know, an opportunity to actually, you know, maybe we will. I don't think we will. I'd love to. I think that the problem that we've got, my friend, is that Belieber's not coming. If you look at my shows, I thought he was. I was all in on him. I genuinely thought that he was coming. I don't think he's coming next year. I don't think, unless we get Champions League, we can't get into the battle with that. City will get him, Liverpool will get him, Madrid will get him. We won't get into that battle. I do think if we get a centre midfielder like Agoume or a goalkeeper like Costa or Lemens, I think we can. I think we generally can go top 4 or 5. As for winning a league, my friend, I hope you're right, but I just don't see it right now. Maybe after 4 or 5 games, maybe we'll see. Look, if we beat City and Chelsea, Fulham and Burnley, who knows? But I think right now, I think to say we're going to win the league, I like it, but I think it's very naive. But I think that we need to have hope. So you're happy with Radcliffe, what he did to your staff? As for Garnacho, bring him to Chelsea, Man United last year was very toxic. Stephen Moore, so you clearly don't watch this at all. I'm not going to go into it too much, but if you watch the videos that I've done, then you will know that I'm abjectly against Ineos. I'm the biggest critic. I will say this, and I will always be on this subject, is that what Radcliffe did to this club is disgusting. I don't agree with it at all. Radcliffe and Ineos are here for profit, or for the basically for the when we build the stadium. That's why he's here. I'm under no illusion of that. And if you do watch the show at all and watch some of the things that I've done, this is what I'm consistent on this. I am not happy on this one, and the majority of people who come in this chat are not happy. But at the moment, there's nothing that we can do right now. But whenever I get an opportunity to talk about this, I'll be consistent on this, and I will tell you now that Sir Jim Radcliffe is clueless. This football in your side right now has proven some of the things I didn't want it to prove, with the lack of ambition. And yes, Cunha's good and Burmo's good, Shesko's good. But if you want to be a proper club, you need to do more than what we've done. So I'm not going to get into it too much, because you'll get me on my soapbox with it all. But in a rounded way, Glazers and Ineos, they're not for me, 100%. Keane says hi. Greg Hubert says, didn't Chelsea nearly fold back in? Attenberg had to save their club. This is the only few decades ago. Exactly. I remember when Ken Bates bought it. I think for £1, because they were so bad. But the Chelsea fans make me laugh, right? Because Abramovich came in and saved the club, but that was okay. You know, they forget their club again was abjectly terrible. They were awful. They were bought out by a billionaire. And the club wasn't. This club earned. And what teams like that cannot stand is that we spent what we earned. We made the Premier League what it is today. And that hurts other clubs. They can't stand it. But it's true. Like, we spent and earned our own money. The Glazers, unlike Abramovich, unlike the oil money at City, have never put a penny of their own cash. This is what other clubs don't get. We might have spent billions, but it's our own money. We've not had a handout. We've spent our own money that we've made. We spent it badly, but we spent our own money. And Chelsea and City forget all of this because they choose to, because it's selective, because it doesn't fit the rhetoric and what they're trying to say. and they don't like it. In my opinion, the only clubs, the only three clubs who've basically earned it are United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. You know, Liverpool to a certain degree because basically, they've been so successful in the last X amount of time. Arsenal built a stadium, paid it off. So when you talk about clubs, you're talking about us. We are the only clubs when you think about it, through success or for stadiums that we've built. We are the ones that have earned this, and Chelsea and City can't stand it because nobody talks about them, and they just can't stand it. The only thing I can always turn up for is Arsenal, Liverpool, or City, but Fulham away Sunday will be the real test. Exactly, and this is where I will say to the match-going fans of this club, it is really important to acknowledge that we're all fans, and we get called online fans, etc., which is true to a degree, but all fans who support this club are equal, but have to give a big shout, and we have to acknowledge the match-going fans. The guys that go home and away that last season had to sit through that awfulness, and they've had to sit through the Glazers for 20 years. Who've been with their dads, like their granddads, their daughters, etc., and they have to sit through that. Those are the fans. And if you have to go Fulham away, then I really hope that we win, because you for all your faith you put in this club and all the money that you spend, I really hope that we win on Sunday, because the match-going fans are literally the lifeblood, of this club. Keep dreaming. Do you want to give me a little bit more there? James Trafford says hi. Hello, sir. I hope you're doing really, really well. Stephen Moore, okay. We're giving it with Abramovich. You are in debt. Are Chelsea in debt? Stephen Moore, I'm not giving it. I'm just stating facts, mate. We are in debt. But it's our debt. Chelsea, let's look at it, right? I'm not saying that we're not in debt. I'm not disputing that we're in debt. This is why I don't agree with Radcliffe, Ineos, the Glazers, right? But if we're talking about our clubs, Chelsea got bought out. The only reason why Chelsea are successful is because they've had money pumped into their club, into your club. That's the only reason. Before that, you were nothing, and it's not a dig. The facts are, before Abramovich came in and pumped a load of money, and I'm not disputing it. Abramovich loved your club. He did the right thing, and I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that you earned it in terms of on the pitch. Now, City are a lot worse than you guys. I'm not disputing that. Chelsea are not in debt, but I don't really understand what the context is there. Like, the point of that is that we're in debt because owners bought us on debt. We're not in debt because we don't earn enough money. We earn more money than you. We earn a lot more money than you. Brand deals. We're a much bigger club. The reason we're in debt is it's the owner's debt, not the club's debt. We were never in debt. So I don't really understand that point. We're still a bigger club than you. We still earn more money than you. Our debt comes from the owners, and we earned our right to buy players because of what we did on the pitch. Chelsea had to buy that. United, Fergie, made all this happen. It wasn't because Abramovich came into our club, or a billionaire came into our club and put a bunch of money in. We built it from the ground up, and we used youth players. So the comparison to Chelsea is irrelevant, because it's ridiculous, because you got bought out by a billionaire. And I'm not having a dig at you, but if you're going to come at that, it's basically the 2 points are not relative, and that's where we are. United is a toilet. Chelsea is next to Harrods. That's your opinion. I'm sure Stamford Bridge has some toilets as well. United has many toilets. Actually, United is actually next to a canal. It's actually next to a train port. If you fancy it, it's good down there. Chelsea's not next to Harrods. So you've clearly never been to Stamford Bridge. It's not next to Harrods. It's around that area. So again, I think you probably need to go and visit the two places. But thank you for that, though. Where are we? Pythagorean, yeah, you've redacted that. Bro, good evening to you. I don't just know what's totally wrong with Sancho or Garnacho. For goodness sake, they are not serious. Yeah, that's true. And we'll come on to those as well. Yeah, Rafim is still going on about toilets. We're in debt because the Glazers are vamposts. Exactly. You're absolutely right. Rafim, mate, it's really easy. I don't think you realise how really easy it is to get rid of you. It's really simple. I'm from Canada and I only understand, yeah, I'll get rid of you as well because you did this the other day. See you later. Sancho is totally, yeah. Tom MC, come back when you won 6 European Cups. Why? I get the sort of point, but then so Tom MC. So does that mean then you're not as good as Real Madrid or AC Milan because you won 6 European Cups? But let's be fair. Okay, Tom MC. In terms of Europe, maybe you've got a point, maybe not, right? But let's look at home leagues, right? In the last 30 years, how many leagues have you won, mate? 2. You've won 2 leagues in the last 30 odd years. All of your leagues, pretty much most of your success was 1990 and before that. So I don't really understand the argument there with you. So basically, because we've not won 6 European Cups, the majority of those were won again before the 90s. Like, what's your point? Like, I don't really get that point. Give me a little bit more context around that. If you're saying like come back when your team it doesn't finish 15th, that is more of a relevant point. But if we go in historically, and you're going to say that to me, well, our history is better than yours. You've won 2 leagues since 1990. In 26 years, you've won 2 leagues. So I think you sort of need to rethink that statement. But that's up to you. That's your opinion. But it really doesn't faze me at all. Liverpool rule. Madrid cheated off of the most successful team. Brilliant. Liverpool are more successful. Ahmed, you really mean that, don't you? Liverpool are more successful than United. You can argue it. Trophies don't lie, but it really depends if you want to go back to 1860, really, doesn't it? If you want to go back to 1990, fine. Cool. That's fine with me. But if you want to go forwards, even in the 2000s, even in the 2010s, Liverpool have been irrelevant for 30 years. You're a great club now. You've signed some great players. You're definitely on the way back or there or thereabouts. But again, I don't get the anger. Like I don't get the you are successful. You are a very, very good team. I'm not here to say that you're not. You're a great team. I don't understand what are you the most successful team? You could argue that on paper, but who's the bigger team? It's not Liverpool, my friend. They are not the biggest team. So you need to deal with that in your own way, but there you go. Not having a go at you, mate, but just seeing what is going on with certain clubs, and believe me, I only see Chelsea towards the end of the year reaping rewards. Let's hope it continues. Stephen Moore, Chelsea are one of those teams, right, whereby if they get it right, they've got so many players that Chelsea, they just can't fund that. Chelsea worry me because the amount of players that they've bought, the amount of players that you've got in that car, if you can get Palmer and teams around him with a striker, Chelsea, you've got so many good players. Now, I've nothing against them whatsoever. Chelsea, people need to watch Chelsea because you've got owners that want to do stuff. You've got a manager who's all right. You've won the Club World Cup do not sleep on Chelsea. That is what I'm going to say to people this year. They up, but once you find that winning 11, mate, you've got the squad to go far. Tom MC, facts don't lie. Facts, okay, yeah, it's true. The facts are you won 2 Premier Leagues since 1990, mate. So, them's are the facts. No, this argument annoys me. Football didn't start in 1992. But no, I agree with you, mate. Football didn't start in 1992. It didn't. I agree with you. I do agree with you completely. But you can argue that Liverpool are more successful, right? I get that. But United are the biggest club. End of story. That's it. No one cares about Chelsea. Tom MC, mate, I think you're sleeping on Chelsea, mate. I think you're sleeping on them. They've got just as much spending power as Liverpool have. All it takes is the right combination. He hates that Chelsea. I'm going to delete that, Tom, just because fair play to you, old school respect. Stephen Moore, my friend, I'm all about old school, right? I believe respect where it's due. I've watched football for a very, 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 very long time, since the 80s, and I remember that. I remember a long, long time ago, and one of the things that I've learned is that you can be successful, right? But it's how you are, how humble you are when you don't win, and then when you start winning again. We're all fans, right? And we love our clubs, and banter I think is really, really important because it keeps the sort of the competitive spirit alive, right? And I think all these arguments and that kind of stuff in here, I think they're respectful. Now, I've got no problem in talking about this stuff and sort of like having like a banter because I think it's important. Ahmed says, I'm not arguing that Liverpool are bigger. I'm just saying that I think you can argue either way, Ahmed. I think you can. Tom MC, I don't hate facts, mate. You can argue what you like. Now, I think that Liverpool are more successful European-wise. Definitely. I'd be a fool to try to argue that. But domestically, I think we're definitely the bigger club. I think we're domestically probably. I think we've won more FA Cups. I think we've won more league or equal leagues now. I don't hate facts, my friend. I'm never gonna say domestically until you win more leagues that you're more successful than us. I don't think you are. We now we have more league cups. Well done for you, of having league cups, mate. You can argue that away, my friend. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm not going to agree with you, so you can argue amongst yourselves on that one. So what do you know? The interesting thing that I think the shame is, and you're proving my point here, guys. You're proving my point on this one is that you're coming on a fan channel for this club, and you're welcome to come on. Ahmad, you're not coming across as rude, my friend. I do not think you are. I don't even think you guys are being disrespectful. Okay, I don't think you are, and you're not coming across as rude at all. I'm not coming back as rude either. You can look at it from whichever way that you like, really. And I get it. Fans are gonna support their own club, and I'd expect you. But the interesting thing for me, and I think it almost kind of semi-backs up my point, right, is that a United fan channel is just me, right? And you come on here arguing your point, which I'm not going to disagree with necessarily. I'm not going to agree with it either. But you're coming onto this channel, and you're welcome to do it, guys. I love this chat, and you're arguing, you're debating your club with me when you should be on your own channel. You just sort of see what I mean? It's sort of like you're sort of arguing your point against who's the bigger club, and you're not on your own channels. And I'm more happy with you being here, guys. It means a lot to me that you're giving me your time, but it's interesting to me. Stephen Moore says, I'm old school Chelsea, and I believe Stephen Moore, legend, my friend, legend. Shanta Kumar, Sancho to Juventus. Okay, so let's get back on track about who's the biggest club, right? So back on track. So we spoke about Sancho. From my perspective, at least they're not Leeds fans. 20 titles, 52 major honours. Tom MC, my friend, mate, you can have that. You can have that battle on your own channel, my friend. You're never gonna get me to say anything other than what I've said now, my friend. But you're welcome to stay here, mate. Yeah, but you're never going to get me to sway on that one, my friend. Loren says hi. So we want Ferguson back. Exactly. Emma says no. I actually agree with you that United are bigger, but I don't think that necessarily means more successful. More trophies in my eyes are more successful. Ahmad, again, my friend, you guys can argue. I mean, you can value, do you value more FA Cups? Chelsea are staying on my days. Tom. But the interesting thing, Tom, for me, my friend, is that you're arguing that on a United fan channel. And it's interesting, isn't it, that you're arguing that, which I don't mind you doing. But let's start here. How do you define success? I think that I will define it, and these will be my sort of final words in it, and then I'll go back to our club. Do you think Fernandes is the problem? I don't think Fernandes is a problem in terms of him as a player. I think the problem with Fernandes for me is that he's not an 8, he's a 10, and he's not disciplined enough. And I think Sancho should have gone, in my opinion, but I get why he's not. If you look at his stats and the things that he does, I just, for me, Fernandes is not a problem, but he's one of the problems. So let me tell you how I define success, and this is where I'm at on it. Okay, so Liverpool through the 70s, 80s, you cannot deny they were the most successful team, right? You absolutely, little things from little minds, you can't deny that. But what also cannot be acknowledged is that United built the Premier League, okay? And I'm not saying that teams like Chelsea and whatever didn't add to the league. Liverpool didn't add to the league. Arsenal didn't add to the league, right? But United built the Premier League. United, if you look at what they did in terms of scouting, in terms of youth, in terms of what they did for the Premier League, in terms of, the sort of showmanship and what it meant for the Premier League, without United, there was no Premier League. And I'm not saying like that now, but if it wasn't for United doing what they did, you'd have no Premier League like as it was now. So if you're going to find success, you've got to define it as we were an era, but our era wasn't like City's era now. It was an era of defining a Premier League. No, you can't. Yes, they are nice. And if you're going to talk about that, we've won the same amount of leagues as Liverpool, right? Liverpool won more leagues than us, right? So they won more European Cups than us, right? But yes, I get that. But if you look at 1990, right, they won 90% of their leagues before the 90s, before the Premier League started. And I get football didn't start in 1992. But football as a sport transcended from what it was. People forget what the 90s football was like. People forget what the 80s football was like. England were banned from Europe, right? People forget what football was like. I used to go to football when I was 4, and I mean, if football was not like it is now. And United had a hand in changing that. Liverpool were what? 18 leagues? We were what? I can't remember what. Were we 6 or something like that? To not only define a league, to define an era, to win as many trophies as we did. If you look at the amount of trophies we won since 1990, that is more successful than Liverpool. You can argue either way, and I'm not going to not going to disagree that Liverpool, in terms of the amount of cups that they won, are more successful. But it can't just be about that, can it? You know, you look at that whole era, and we are the most successful club in my eyes. That is my opinion. Factually, you can say what you like, but that's where I am on that one, my friend. We're getting Costa. So KK, let's go through it again. So Agoume, we're interested in Agoume for 30 million. I hope that happens. 26 million pounds. Costa, 30 million pounds potentially as well. So another 26 million. So Garnacho to Chelsea. I don't know how Chelsea fans feel about Garnacho, mate. If I was a Chelsea fan, I wouldn't be wanting him. He's not great. Yeah, okay, Fez. I guess we look at the term successful. I meant exactly, my friend. You know, I'm not. I can't disagree. I can't disagree. Yeah, but yeah, but yeah, but Tom MC, you're looking at facts now because you just won the Premier League. Facts are you've won 2 leagues in 30 odd years. Now, if you go back, let me just put it this way, Tom MC, right? If you go back 30 years from 1990, right? I think what was it, 32 years since you won the league last, right? If you go back from 1990, 32 years, that's 1958. So if you go back 32 years, that's 1958. So the equivalent of you not winning a league would be from 1958 to 1990. That is how poor you've been. So those are facts as well. Those are hard facts. You didn't win the league for 30 odd years. So if you go back from 1990, 32 years, that's 1958. And you look at exactly. Yeah, but Tom MC, yeah, but you're trying to argue a different point, my friend. Like, football didn't start in 1990, but the point I'm trying to make is you didn't win the league for 32 years. And if you go back, it's 1958, mate. So it's like you not winning the league it's like you winning 18 leagues, right, from 1900 to 1958, and then not winning the league again from 1958 to 1990. And then because you've won the league, claim that you're the most successful. In the modern era, United are still the most successful club in England. You could probably argue now of the last 10 years, City, but Tom MC, mate, you're basically pissing into the wind, mate. You're pissing it into the wind. You've won 2 leagues in 30 years, mate. Just it's fine, mate. It's cool. Mate, you're just, yeah, mate, you're just, are you nuts? Tom MC, mate, facts are facts, as you say. You didn't win the league for 32 years, and what you want to do is come on here and argue a point. Mate, nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares about your club. You spent nearly 500 million on players, and no one's talking about you. Nobody cares. I know it's hard to deal with, but it is what it is, mate. Neil Crodes, legend of the chat. Firm pass on Rabiot when he's been chucked out of Marseille. Exactly, my friend. It wouldn't surprise me if Ineos. Would you cause your opinion to change then? How many titles do Liverpool win to be bigger than United? Yeah, but it depends, doesn't it? It depends on your opinion of what success is, right? If you want to say that Liverpool are more successful and they win another league and they win another European Cup, are they more successful? Yes. I'm not going to argue that. I can't argue that point. But they're not as big. When you're talking about bigger, what are you talking about? Success and being bigger are not the same thing. Are they more successful? Yes. But are they big as us? No, they're not. And you know that Burn, best Premier League team according to you. Who's the best Premier League team right now? Liverpool are probably one of the best Premier League teams. Well, judging on previous season. City are there or thereabouts, 100%. So yeah, I think you've got Liverpool, City. I think Chelsea have got a good squad. Arsenal, Arsenal again. You know they've got this knack of doing things. So I'd pretty much say the best team are Liverpool. Definitely now. We know they've strengthened. They didn't need to. You know they've gone and they've decided that they won the league and they're going to spend a couple of £100 million. 100% they are the best team in the league. City as well, you know, they've got an amazing squad. So for me, you know, they are one of the best teams. Whether you like teams or not, you know, you absolutely cannot say a team's not good, even if you. I mean, I don't like City as much as like the next fan, but they're a good team. You know, it pains me, but you know, the Royal Master says, "Hi, what's your opinion on United linked to buying a midfielder from Seville?" Yeah, agreed, my friend. Rotality Master, Agoume is the one. If you know anything about Agoume, this chat has been amazing on it so far. Absolutely fantastic. Agoume's been mentioned weeks and weeks ago. 23 years old, a high-engined, high-tackling midfielder. 23 years old. You know, 6'2". 30 million euros, 26 million pounds. This chat has been on it. Belieber, I'd love Belieber. I really would. Or Wharton, but the problem is that they're going to be too expensive. I think they'll be far too expensive to do. We clearly don't have the chops to do it. We're not Liverpool. Liverpool have gone and spent like hundreds of millions of pounds. We're not in that place. When this season we're not in the Champions League. I would love Belieber or Wharton. Wharton I think is more possible, but I don't think we're going to do it, and I don't think Palace are going to sell Wharton for anything less than 70 to 80 million. So I think it is one of, and actually to that, Luis as well from Juventus today. I don't know if anybody saw that, but he's basically gone to Forest on loan. Luis, I don't know why we weren't all over that deal. I think that would have been a great deal I think I would have solved so many issues, but Forest are going to get him. It's a pretty much like a here we go. So in my opinion, Agoume is a decent one. There's Steeler as well at Stuttgart as well, but Agoume is the one that we've been linked to so far. Tom MC, 90,000 in Australia. Tom MC, mate, I really couldn't care. I'm a hater, but I don't like City. Tom MC is just cracking on with it. I agree that United are bigger. Yeah, we are bigger, my friend. I feel like City are being overlooked this season. So Peg G12, yeah. I don't think people overlook City. I think that people just expect City to be good. I think people don't talk about City anymore for a couple of reasons. One, people don't necessarily agree with the 115 things over them, but people expect them. When you get to the level City are at, people are like, yeah, they're going to finish in the top two positions. I don't think City are being overlooked. I think City have been very clever this season. I think City have done their business extremely well. They've gone underneath the whole thing. Liverpool have been shouting, "Oh, we bought Ekatike and Verts, and we've done all this stuff." But City haven't. City have gone about their business this year. It's a typical Pep sort of pretending that they haven't spent a bunch of money. They've spent loads of money, but City have they've people just expect them to win now. So I think City are the ones to watch this season. I think they've got a settled team. Pep knows what he's doing. So watch this space for City. I think that they're going to be a force this season. Who's bigger waste of money? Di Maria, Sancho, or Anthony? Just Anthony, I think. Anthony for me. Sancho's been awful, but I think Anthony for me. I think when you've got Anthony, who was signed by a manager that had him at Ajax, brought him through, brought him in for half a season and then just didn't play him anymore. 86 million. You've got to take it. You've got to take that on the chin and go, look, at least Angel did something. It wasn't, like how he left wasn't great, but at least he contributed something. At least he was a world-class player. At least he was a good player. I don't like him, but he was a good player. Sancho, you could argue that, but Anthony has to be the worst, doesn't he? He has to be the worst. Fidget spinner FC, Anthony is the worst for me, but I'm not going to argue against any of those three, my friend. I don't know why. In my head, Arsenal will finish fourth because of Arteta will lose. He's too much pressure. Trust the process. Stephen Moore, I feel Arsenal are one of those teams whereby I think they'll kick later on, but will that kick be too late? They've got a good defence as they've shown. Arsenal will come their best, but I think City and Liverpool are going to be too strong. Chelsea as well. Don't sleep on Chelsea because they've got such a good squad. United, I'd love to mention them more being this channel, but I just don't think we've got the depth. But again, we're only playing one game a week. Spurs as well, they made some really good signings. So I think Arsenal might have a dip. I think they might have a dip this season. Gyökeres didn't look that great. What I'll say about Arsenal is I think that they're going to have a good season, but I think they'll kick too late. I think City and Liverpool will be so far ahead by the time Arsenal decide to kick on that it might be too late for them. Let me see, Ireland support Liverpool, that's not a fact. City are pigs. Tom MC, you seem a little bit angry, my friend. You seem to be like itching for a fight. Definitely on the wrong place for that. But do you think Guerra from Valencia is a better fit than Hojlund or any midfielder? I think that Guerra's too attacking for me, mate. I think he's more of a number 10. I wouldn't disagree with the signing. He's young. I think he's one for the future, but for me, I think he's too much of a number 10. I think he's too much of an attacking midfielder. I'd have Guerra instead of Fernandez. I think he is a number 8 potentially, but I think we need a number 6. I think we need more of a defensive or even argue a box-to-box player. Right now, Hojlund. If it's Hojlund or nothing, I'll take Hojlund. Again, if it's a Guerra or nothing, I'll take him as well. But we definitely need more of an Agoume believer type of player. But if you don't mind me asking, what do you do? Your way of talking, having conversation is just amazing. You sound like a debate expert. Haha. Bern, thank you, my friend. I am a financial consultant, effectively. So my job is basically talking to people. I've got three kids as well, so I'm having to always stop people from having an argument. So, but I appreciate that, my friend. That means a lot. I wish I was an expert, and I'd probably win some stuff sometimes. But no, I talk to people a lot all day. That is my job, pretty much, and I love talking to people in the chat as well. I remember they had Sean Gota. Tom MC is probably the best thing that you said, Lewis. We should have won the other day. Arsenal were up for the taking. Lewis, mate, I think you're spot on. I think you're 100% right. I think you are spot on, but we've got to move on, right? Fulham. It's all about Fulham. We saw a performance. It's Fulham next. That is where we've got to go. Imagine supporting United. I'm gonna have to delete that out, Tom MC. I appreciate it, but I've got to be careful of the chat. I don't mind you coming in. I don't mind the banter, but I kind of have to be careful. I'm not going to miss Player FC. George Burke, 100%, my friend. So good segue into Sancho, Jadon Sancho. I don't think he's going anywhere at all. I think Jadon Sancho is basically for me is a mercenary. I don't like saying that about players. I don't like it at all. I'm not the type to want players to to leave on bad terms. But players don't have to stay at your club for a long time. I get that. But he's disrespected himself, disrespected these fans. And with Sancho, his team are playing a really, really good game. So he's had Juventus, Besiktas, Roma, and he said no to all of these teams because he's not going anywhere. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want us to receive £20 million and then him take a pay cut. What he wants is he wants to be paid off. He wants his deal to be paid off, and he wants a payment as well. So why would he do that? Why is he going to not stay for another year? I'll tell you why he might go. Why is he not going to stay for another year, get paid £10 million at the end of it, and then go away and get another deal? It just doesn't make sense. Now, conversely to that, there is another year on his deal. Now, do we just go, look, if you don't move, you've got this season and the next season, and you're basically stuck on a bench, you're going to rot, your career's over, potentially. But the argument there is that we'd be paying him 300k for 2 years. He doesn't want to play for England. He's got no ambition in his career, no ambition in his life. So I think Sancho's not going to go anywhere. He's playing a good game. What his people are doing is a good game. They're putting him out there, pretending like he's going to move. He's not moving anywhere. He's going to sit on his arse and not going to do a thing for a year, and then you'll go next year and get paid a whacking load of money. I hope it's not the case, but logically, I just don't see why he's going to move and someone's going to pay him that next season. It just doesn't make sense for me. I'm Ireland now. What you say is not fact. Burn, Tom MC. I am a diehard Liverpool fan, but while you hating United fans, it's a support. Burn, mate. I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. It is nice to debate it. It's always nice to have a debate about our football clubs, right? We are not your rivals right now, because we're not, and it's sad for me to say that, Burn, but we're not your rivals. I want us to be competing with you, right? I want us to finish first and second every single year, and we try to keep pace. We're not in your league, and that's a fact. I'm not stupid enough to say that. But as you say, for Tom MC, who's now got himself banned because he's a Wally, it's just no need for it, is there really? We can banter each other. I think it's fine, but the sort of abject hate, I've never understood it. Perhaps I'm just old school in the way that I think about football. I love the sport. I've loved the sport for 38 years, and maybe that's where people's passions are. They some people just want to see the world burn. I think. Gregory, but at what point are we just going to realise that Sancho he's going to go exactly? Gregory, I think we should. I think where I'm at is, if he doesn't want to go, and it's not a precedent that I want to set, I would just pay him off and just go, see you later. I want to say some harsher words on this, but I can't say it. I'd say to him, see you later. I'd pay him off and sack him. That's what I would do. I'd pay him off, sack him, leave him go elsewhere. I would try to hurt his career. I really would. After what he's done to this club, why should players get away with it scot-free? I get he's on a contract. I'm not disputing that, but why do they get away with it scot-free? Go to another club and upset other fans. That's not right, is it? I just don't agree with that at all. Rick, agree with you, mate. He's got a contract. Like, as I just said, I can't disagree with that. He's got a contract. Nobody made him, nobody made us give him the contract. But at the same time, where does your professionalism come into it? I get it. He's a merc. It is what it is. What can we do? The problem is with Sancho. Yeah, I agree with that. Mohammed, as a United fan, we need a CM and keeper. I agree, my friend. Arsenal fan, what's going on in the United space? ISSA, mate, we're trying to sign players. Our depth in our squad isn't great. We're trying to sign Agume, and I think we're trying to sign Costa or Lemens. Let's see what we have to do, mate. Arsenal, was it a one-off game, a fluke from us? I want to see us do well. I want to be competing with Arsenal. We competed in one game. Can we compete with you week in, week out? That is the question. So where we're at is a goalkeeper and a CM. Outside of that, I don't know. And we've not sold a single player yet. We've only loaned out one player. So we've got a lot of work to do here, my friend. Rob says, hi JB, Rob, legend of the chat. Agree with you, mate. I am well, my friend. I'm 24. I have an exact same thinking as you. You're not old school. You just cool. Burn. Thank you, my friend. Cheers, buddy. I appreciate that. I've never been cool a day in my life, my friend. But I thank you for that. There's a new plan. Exactly, we do. Do you guys trust in Rubin? Yes, I think you have to. I think if Ineos have gone for this guy, there are people in this chat who don't. And again, you've got to respect opinion, right? Because whether I like it or not, Amarin has only won 7 games in 28. So he's won 7 in 28 games, right? I've done videos on this, right? But ultimately, this is the season that we need to judge him on factually. That's what we have to do. What he's done with this team so far has been a miracle. What can he do this season? This is, for me, is what's he going to do with the rest of this season? So he's been proven right in kicking these players out. There's 4 or 5 players he's kicked out, and we have to trust that. We've got to, if there are players in this squad he doesn't think are quite right, then we have to trust him. And then if he fires himself, then that's on him. But I don't want to give him an excuse. If he gets fired, it has to be because he's not good enough, not because we didn't give him players. And I think that's where I am with most coaches in the Premier League. They have to go based on their ability or inability. If you are in the chat, please don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. Even if you don't like me, just get in there for this amazing community and this amazing chat. And of course, other people from other clubs are welcome here as well. Costa is elite with his feet. A lot of that rhymes, mate. I know it doesn't really rhyme, but elite with his feet, perfect. What's your take on Garnacho? Sorry, mate, I'll come back down to that. And still, what's your take on Garnacho saga? Will you take Erik Martel from Cologne or Steeler from Stuttgart? I'll take Steeler, mate. I really would. Garnacho. So where we are with Garnacho is Garnacho Chelsea. It's Chelsea or bust. Chelsea don't want to pay 50 million. We won't accept 35. We might end up doing a 40 million, 35 plus 10 or something along those lines. But no, and this is not a dig at Chelsea fans, but Chelsea as a club, they do their business, right? They don't mess around. They want him because they know he's going to be a good player. He wants to go to them, so he's going to go to them. When he goes to them, maybe it's on the stream now. I don't know, but he's going to go very, very soon. He's going to go within the next 2 weeks. Erik Martel, I can't say I've seen him play much, but Steeler for me, I'll take him. He's a great player. He's another one mentioned in this chat. Steeler for me, I've looked at him now. He'd be a great player. I think he's a really, really good player. But again, I don't think as a club and scouts, I don't think we're smart enough just yet, and I don't think we're there just yet to get players like that. Gregory Burke. Better times are ahead as long as we stick with Ruben Amarin. Changing managers every season is inefficient. One club, one track. Mate, amazing comment. Love it. 100%. Again, I've seen your name quite a lot now, and if you've watched some of the previous stuff, I definitely I've said that we need to give him 2 seasons. Even if we don't finish top 4 or 5, as long as we're playing better and we're aiming towards that, you can't go from 15th. You can, but it's very rare you go from 15th, like a Leicester, you go from 16th or whatever to winning the league. That simply doesn't happen. So if we're going to go from 15th to 7th and we're playing better and we've got more points, then we've got to give him at least another 2 seasons. And that's where I sort of am on him. And I agree with you, Gregory. I think you're spot on. ISSA, I'm worried about what the front line will do. I'm excited to see Cunha and Burma. Exactly. I think that is unbelievable. I think that's going to be great. Hi from Trinidad. Ravi, welcome, my friend. We are getting global on here now, and I'm glad to have you here, my friend. What do you think of the Isaac situation with regard to training? I'm on school. Isaac, my friend, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. You know, when you sign a contract with a club, I get player power. I get that completely. Okay, you know, Isaac, the way I don't agree with the way that he's done it. If he wants to go to a bigger club, I get that. Brookie, 28. What does that do, mate? I don't get it. What is going to happen, mate, is you're going to get banned, right? You can either basically you can redact the comment that you've just made, right? Or you can enter into some good chat, or you're going to get blocked. So I know, man, I'm just bored in it. Appreciate that. Look, I don't mind if you're bored, mate. You're welcome here. Just I don't mind the banter, my friend. I don't mind the banter. You're welcome here. Just watch this where I'm at. I've only used this YouTube live twice. I'm gonna have to remove the swearing comment, my friend. But you're welcome here, okay? I get it. Boredom is an absolute killer. Boredom is a killer, my friend. Where are we? Isaac. So Isaac, for me, I get it. You want to play for a bigger club, but don't disrespect the fans, man. Why would you disrespect your legacy at a club? You know, if Newcastle, if Liverpool go and offer 120, 130 million for Isaac, they will let him go. They will do. They will absolutely will. But to behave like that and destroy a legacy, I think there's more important things in life than money. I really do, Dave. You know, if somebody offered me that sort of money and to play, you know, I wouldn't play for Liverpool, but if somebody offered me that sort of money and that sort of life, would I reject it? I wouldn't, but would I behave in that way? No. Why would you segregate and why would you destroy the love that the fans give you? You know, those fans that put your name on the back of their shirt, those fans that come and see you week in, week out, adore you, you know, children who are screaming your name, you know, people up and down loving you in that city and that club, you know, the people that you see every single day, you know, and it's not just your teammates, it's the tea lady, it's the admin person, it's the person who works on the desk, and you're prepared to destroy all that when Newcastle will let you go anyway, but you're willing to destroy all that for what? A couple of more like 100k? I just don't get it. I just don't get it, my friend. Garnacho is a spot. Yes, he is. I agree with you. Rob, legend of the chat. Do you think at this point it's players out before a midfielder? No, I don't think it is. I think there's a misconception around this, and I'll tell you for why. It's basically two things on this, right? So you've got FFP and you've got PSR. PSR doesn't come into this. So for FFP, as long as we sell players, and Liverpool have to do it, Chelsea have to do it, City have to do it as well. As long as we sell players between July the 1st and June the 30th in this window, then we're fine. We've got to do it to balance the books as it was. So we don't, at this point, we don't need to necessarily sell to buy players, but we will have to sell to balance the books. As long as we do it by the next window, then we're fine. But to be prudent, I think this club has to do things like that, right? I know, mate, just bored. Yeah. So Gregory says Chelsea are playing chicken and with United at the end of the window. I agree with that. Garnacho should end up being sold. Yeah. I don't know why Chelsea. Chelsea don't need him. I don't understand why they're going for him. They don't need him. You know, I get it. I think Chelsea are seeing the potential. I think what Chelsea are doing, and I get it, they're seeing a £35 million acquisition, and it's like anything in life, right? If you go buy a house and you go see a house, and you know it's going to be worth like £1 million, and there's a deal there to be done for like 400k, but you spend 450k on it, and it's going to be worth like £1 million. You're going to do it, right? So that's what they're seeing in Sancho. They see him 35 million, 3 years time, sell him for like 100 million. That is exactly what this is about. So they've got to pay a fair price. United probably will have to sell, but I think they're playing. I think both clubs are playing a very dangerous game here. But Sancho couldn't care about a player anymore. I just want him gone. And he says, which position is currently more important? Oh, mate, you've got a really good question there. I think you can go either way on this one. For me, it's a. I think as a goalkeeper, I really do. I think we need both equally as much, but I think we need a goal. I think we've got enough in the midfield to cover. So if you've got Mainu, Ugarte, I can't stand Ugarte, but fine. You've got Mainu, Ugarte, Casemiro. You've got enough in there to maybe last until the next window. Goalkeeper, we cannot go into this season with Onana in goal. He's that bad. So I'd go goalkeeper. Close up is, I think you can go either way on it, but for me, goalkeeper, then a centre midfielder. But I definitely demand both. Murat, respect, mate. You've done some really good business this year, so hopefully you can play against Fenerbahce and beat them this year. Good luck to your season, my friend. You've got what's his name up front? Bloody hell. What's his name up front that you just signed? It's going to bug the life out of me now. What's his name? Hojlund. Fantastic signing. So hopefully you'll do really, really well this season. A good example is Eze. Play for Palace against Chelsea, whether we lose or not. Exactly, Stephen. Exactly, my friend. That's exactly the point. That's exactly what you do. If you're Isaac, instead of chucking your toys out of the pram like some sort of Wally, you just go play for the club, and then you'd leave. Like, get the fans are okay to disrespect players when it. Okay, Rick says the fans are okay to disrespect players when it suits them. He rightly is taking care of his own interests. Clubs have offloaded players for less. That's what's happening at Newcastle. Rick, again, that's your opinion. Again, respect your opinion. When you've got, and I don't agree with players. I don't agree with fans disrespecting players in terms of racism and that kind of stuff, right? But if your player's not playing well, mate, that's what the game's about. You've got these. I don't feel sorry for millionaires running around on that pitch. There's no room for racism. There's no room for disrespect like that on the pitch. There's certain things and certain levels that you don't go to, and I do think sometimes fans do go to a level that is disgusting, and I don't agree with that. But general banter and general support in your club, these are fans who pay money to the club. Without fans, you have no football. Without fans buying the merchandise, without fans buying the tickets, without fans paying for Sky Sports, without fans is no football. So without fans, there's no place. Isak was quite happy to come to that club, quite happy to have fans and young players calling his name, being happy to pay millions and millions of pounds, and 99% of those fans adore him and love him. And to do what you do, I'm not disagreeing that he's going to take care of his business. I'm not disagreeing with that. But there's levels to this game. There's levels of respect you have for yourself, levels of respect that you have for the fans. I think there are very few fans who disrespect players to a level that I would say that is beyond the joke. but there's a level that you go to. You respect these people who basically let you come into their home, and then you piss all over them. I'm sorry. I think there's levels to this game. As a United fan, I wouldn't want to buy a player like that. I just wouldn't. I don't want to buy a player who's prepared to do that to their club, because what's he prepared to do to Liverpool next? If things go really well and then another club comes calling, which they might, you look at Trent. If the same thing happens there, would they be happy? So you know what you're getting. You're getting a mercenary. So Liverpool fans better be prepared for that sort of player. Scholes and Giggs are two of the very best, and we'll never see. Yeah, exactly, my friend. I think it's going to be very, very rare. Gavin, who's likely to sign Sancho when his contract runs out now that he has screwed? Gavin, I think, my friend, I think that there'll be plenty of clubs willing to give him like 150k a week. As we know, football is very, very narrow-minded. There'll be Turkish clubs, and I'm not saying because Turkey is a bad league, or there'll be Italian clubs, there might be Premier League clubs. There's going to be all sorts of clubs, in my opinion, that will sign him for. They'll give him X amount of money. You've got still got a potential good player there. There'll be tons of players, mate, and I think that's what he's sort of hoping for. I hope, Gavin, that it doesn't happen, but we all know football. Someone's going to come in, sign him on a free. Marseille, for example, not to bring the Greenwood situation into this, innocent, can't really say, but if Marseille's prepared to sign a player with all that stigma around him, Sancho's going to be an easy sell to somebody. So I exactly what you want. Flip Sancho for a profit next year. I would, exactly, mate. I would let Sancho rot, mate. Most commentators are hoping for the worst. Rick, I agree with you. Rob, I think we need two keepers. Rob, I agree with you, mate. 100% agree with you. I think we need two keepers. I think we need two midfielders. I think we need two strikers. I think we need so much more. Hi, Galatasaray fan here. Legend of a club, mate. I remember when Galatasaray, and I'm going to go back and show my age now. I remember when we played Galatasaray in 92, 93 with Cantona and Giggs, and we went to your stadium. Honestly, I think we lost. I've never seen an atmosphere, or watched an atmosphere like that in my entire life. I think I was 92, 93. Honestly, that match was ridiculous. Such a passionate club. I really, I think that league is some of the most passionate fans and people in that league. So yeah, welcome here, my friend. I never wanted United to be second to anybody. Only the best is good enough. Gregory, I cannot agree with you more. I demand first every single season. For me, every single season we have to demand first. We have to be second to nobody. We have to demand excellence, and we've lost our way over the last 15 years. And even though I'm not stupid enough to know we're going to get first, I still demand it. I still demand standards. I demand first. I demand Champions League. Anything else is a failure to me, and that is why that's the mentality that we need. Big club mentality needs to come back. If you sell, he's 100 million now. Yeah, what players get paid is a cop-out argument. Their profession happens to pay those rates. That's it. There aren't other professions like lawyers who aren't worth their phrase. I'm not copping out of anything, Rick. In what other industry? Okay, so if you're looking at a lawyer and they do law, right, and you've got clients, all right, and funnily enough, I work with lawyers, so I know how that profession works. I'm an accountant as well, so I know how that works. Are all lawyers worth their fees? Nope. If a lawyer doesn't do a good job and goes on strike, does a lawyer get paid? No. If a lawyer doesn't do their job properly, does a lawyer get sacked? No. If a lawyer goes on strike or an accountant goes on strike and just decides they don't want to come to work anymore, and they've signed a contract, then their contract is a notice of 3 months, and they're kicking and screaming, do they get paid? No. Do they get sued? Probably. Footballers get millions and millions of pounds. The wage is not a cop-out. They can kick, scream, not play, and they still get paid. What other profession do you know that if your profession is a striker and you don't score a goal, what other profession do you know where you don't do your job for a year or 2 years, irrespective of whether you sign a contract, and you still get paid for doing it? That's a cop-out. What you're saying, in my opinion, is a cop-out. Just because the football players, I get that the industry pay those rates, but you're dealing with the only reason they get paid their rates. The only reason they get paid their rates is because of football fans. People put money in that club's pocket. Sponsorships come to that club because of the fans, and the fans adore these players. And yet they don't perform, and yet then he signed a contract, and yet he can go and strike and not play. What other profession do you know that you can go and strike and not work and you get paid? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculousness. So he signed a contract, and if I was them, let him rot for a year. Fine. They can't, and they won't, because they'd be stupid to. But I think your argument has so many flaws in it, mate. I think it's like a sinking boat. Stephen Moore says, Rick, I totally disagree. If you go to Liverpool for 2 years, exactly, Rick. What Manchester United change of ownership, including this new guy? Rick, lawyers overcharge. I agree with you, Rick. I don't disagree with you, Rick, on that one, mate. I've worked with lawyers for 20 odd years. Some of them are worth their money, but yeah, I agree with you. It is abominable. It is a lawyer is basically a license to print money. Don't get me started on that, mate. Guaranteed contracts in sports are terrible. I agree. That's what the contract provides. There's consideration. Rick, my friend, I think football is one of those it's a very divisive topic, right? I don't think you're wrong. I think you can argue it both sides, and it depends on what side that you sort of fall on. I don't disagree with some players who want to go on strike. I don't disagree with players and how they are treated by clubs. I just think it really depends on your club, right? I think it depends on how they behave. I think if Isak would behave in a different way, he'd get his way more. But rather than behaving this way, I think he's making himself look bad. But some lawyers are worth what they charge. I mean, agreement. As I say, I've worked with lawyers for 20 odd years. Some of the most intelligent people that you can meet, some of the best people. It does depend really on your industry, and it depends on the lawyer type as well. I know some lawyers who are called special counsel. You would be absolutely amazed what they earn. Rob says this concerns City are looking good again. Liverpool, Arsenal, City are stronger. Forest are cooking again. I agree. We need this midfielder. What should he do, Rick? That's a very, very good question. I think if I was him, and I can only give it from my perspective, okay, I wouldn't be doing what he's doing. Newcastle will sell him. If he goes to them and say, look, I want to go, you're going to get 130 million, right? I want to go. I don't particularly want to play anymore, but if you want to play me and I get injured, then you're taking that risk. The end of the day, he's an asset, right? Newcastle need to sell for FFP. That is who they are, right? So what I would do is I'd go to him and say, look, I don't particularly want to play. But you're going to sell me for 130 million, which I think is fair. You don't want to pay me the value, the market value Liverpool do. So I'll play, but I'm going to run my contract down, and you'll be wasting nearly like 130 million quid. So it's up to you. I'd still play. I think I'd show professionalism, but I wouldn't go on strike and start kicking and screaming and moaning and whatever else he's doing. That's personally. What you would do is different, and I'm not going to judge anybody under their personal situations. But what I would do is, if I was a professional, what would I advise him to do? I'd advise him to be professional. I will come back to that. Stephen Moore says, nice cocking you red. Seriously, good chat. Thanks, mate. I appreciate that, mate. Up the Chelsea. Stephen Moore, I'll speak to you soon, buddy. What as a professional would you advise him to do? I would advise him to tell the club he wants to leave. I'd advise him to say, look, you're going to get a very, very good deal here. You need to sell me. I'm going to play. I'm still going to play, but I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be like 100% at it. I'm not going to be focused. I will play, but you're not going to get the best out of me because I want to move. My head's been turned. Once a player like Isaac says, look, I'm going to leave. My advice to him would be, look, we're going to be open with this club, and we're going to say, look, we want to work with you. 130 million pounds is a good deal. He's going to get paid. You're paying him like 150. He's going to get paid 300k. You're not going to keep this player, so he's going to play, but he's not going to be the best player. And then you're going to also as well, one thing to consider here, if he's not going to be playing up to scratch, right, he's going to be worth less next season. He will devalue himself. He'll have 1 year less on his contract, and he'll be worth a lot less money next season. So I think if you go at them with facts, they're always going to sell. But the problem that you got now is Newcastle going to kick their heels because he's not going to play. He's gone on strike. I don't think he needed to do any of that at all. I would have advised him to be professional. I think he's 25, 26. I think he's around that age. Again, like the points you make, Rick, about contracts and that kind of stuff, I get it. I do get it completely, but I just think that when you behave in that way for a move, I just don't like it. I think there are different ways to do it, and he's going to get his move. But I just think it's a bad look for Liverpool, and I think it's a bad look for him as well. 40 are watching. A like, favourite, and subscribe is always good. Guys, I am going to go to bed. It is 1:30 here in Spain. It's been an amazing chat with you all. As always, one thing I'll always say, and I think it's really important, whether you're a supporter of the club, whether you don't like football, you just like stumble across us, whether you support different clubs, what I'll always say is I thank you for being here, because it's one thing in life you can't buy is you can't buy time, and you've given me your time, whether we agree, disagree or not. It's really important to me to say thank you for giving me your time. I think it's really important. I love this debate. It's not always on the subject that necessarily we agree on, but you guys in the chat, like Rick, Rob, I mean, there's so many now, Stephen Moore, Gavin, Gregory, Ashish, I mean, there's so many of you now in the chat, and I thank you all. I really, really do. Been an amazing chat. Stay safe. Have a good morning, evening, rest of the day, whatever you decide to do. I'll be back. If anything does break, feel free to jump back on whenever you see me. I'll probably tomorrow or the next day I'll be in a normal space, but I'm on holiday right now, so I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, guys, and have a good one. See you soon.